it's like such a needed thing for men to be able to break it down, to do that. But we don't want to stay in I don't know. We don't want to pray for I don't know, because when we do that, I don't know becomes suffering. I don't know becomes addiction. I don't know becomes depression. And I don't know becomes I'm no longer here. That's what this world is plagued with. What we are doing as Sacred Sons is we are connecting and reconnecting men to their hearts, leading men to their purpose, right? And so that's going to be a long journey. It's not going to be solved in a weekend, but we make massive strides, as you know, like on our events. So what do you want, Maxie?
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Going Out Looking In, the podcast about the big questions of life, personal growth, and spirituality. My name is Maxi, I'm your host, and today we are talking about the work necessary for all men, for all women, for all children, for all humans, for this planet. I'm speaking with Adam Jackson, co-founder of Sacred Sons. He's also an engineer, he's a creative, he's a singer, a musician, a ceremonialist, a father, a son, and a husband. And he is one of the founding members of the movement that is Sacred Sons. And after speaking to several of their leaders, it was an honor for me to go back to the source, to the heart of this organization, to explore who the man is that gets up in the morning to do this work, who devoted his life to the evolution of himself, his family, his spirit, and therefore the ripples that work and that growth brings to all of us. And I'm truly honored and grateful to have had this opportunity to sit down with Adam. We explored so much, but like I said, especially the journey of Adam himself, professionally, personally, spiritually, emotionally. And that was a bit that I was missing. I wanted to really get to the root and wanted to know what's the sapling of this movement. And where did it start for him? So we explored that with much more. I reflected on my own cathartic moments within Sacred Sons and the evolution that this organization introduced into my life. And with that, I don't have much more to say. I bring you this episode with much love from my heart to yours. Infinite grace and abundance to all of you. And Adam Jackson. What better way to start this conversation than with a question that I lended from you. This beautiful day, Adam, it's most alive within you.
What's most alive with me is this beautiful day. I woke up probably about 5:45 and went outside in the backyard, and the sun is rising. I'm giving my prayers up, and there's a rainbow, a sunrise rainbow. This is a rare thing for San Diego too. But there was a rainbow in the west as the sun is rising in the east. And it just made the sky and the clouds look like cotton candy, and paintings of cherubim, it looks just like that. And so what's alive within me is like the preciousness of a simple moment like that, how much energy it can give us if we're just allowing ourselves to be in the presence of God in all forms. And this morning I was fortunate enough for it to come in a rainbow. Rainbow is very significant. What I said to Hannah, she came outside and joined me. And so all the babies were asleep, which is also a miracle. So she came out and joined me, and we were looking at it. And I said, if we were just humans living out here with our family, and we were just on this land, take away the modern times, take away everything, that this moment would be a significant sign of God's favor. So I feel blessed. I feel favored by God. I feel grateful for all the prayers that my family and I have received as we are still in a postpartum portal. We just had a baby girl December 28th, 2023. So she's about 1 month old. And so I'm just in awe and gratitude for the blessings.
I reacted to it on social media now that we speak, sending so much love, grace, and abundance your way. And Winona, right? Yeah.
Winona, yes.
Yeah, bro.
Winona, our firstborn daughter, really, it's really special for me because I have 3 sons. So I'm now in this year a father of 4, and we got our baby girl, and our team is complete. That's how it feels.
Yeah, man. Well, so beautiful. I mean, like I'm slowly getting into an age where people around me start having babies and the families of their own, and it's getting like a thing. But bro, like your baby, like Winona, like she is so cute, like and pretty and like so beautiful. Like I actually, just because I'm home right now, so I was talking to my mom earlier, and she was like, "You got an interview today?" And I'm like, yeah, this guy from Sacred Sons. And she's like, "Oh, that's exciting." And I'm like, yeah,
not just a guy from Sacred Sons.
No. I was like the guy, the guy, one of the guys. And I actually showed her the photo of Winona, and she was like, she lost her breath. She was like, How can creation be so cute and sweet and beautiful? Yeah, so
and it can be that it can be that sweet and beautiful. That's what I'm saying. It is that sweet and beautiful. If we are willing to look for it, if we are willing to be in the presence of it, and it's not all sweet and beautiful. I'm also checking in exhausted. I'm also checking in, coming off, dropping my kids off at school. It's now raining, as was the sign of this rainbow of the abundance of the waters to come. We're about to have 5 days of rain here, which is also rare for Southern California, but it is a blessing. It's a blessing for these lands to receive that rain. But, it's just that the messiness, the exhaustion, the aspects that are typically deemed like negative, for me, they're not like that. Like, this is a devotion to family. I feel grateful to be able to commit I feel so grateful to hold a family. There was a time in my life, Maxie, you're 29. I'd say a little bit earlier, but like when I was like 27, around this age, I was like, I could take it or leave it. I was like, that looks exhausting. My brother had children. I saw it as something that, oh man, I don't know if I am resourced enough to actually do that in this life. And there's a maturing that happens around that time. For me, it literally was at the age of 33, that depth of maturity when my soul started to remember a part of the purpose here is to pass it on. And I'd gotten to a place of full self-love, full acceptance, with the grace. And then the remembrance of, it's not about me. Right. And so that was like the baby toe thought into what is now become like, we're a family of 6. I drive a minivan, bro. We can't even fit in a regular car. Like I'm so deep in it.
Well, yeah, bro. And I mean, you got all the space for it, man. Like the roads are small. Everything's tiny, and I'm the thought and it's not just a thought. It's like a calling of building a family on my own is growing slowly but surely, and it's working within me, and I'm in full surrender that that the union in which that is going to be happening in is going to find my way within the next year, this and next year. I'm calling it in. So
that's it.
Yeah.
Calling it in, but not only calling and waiting for it, right? Because what you seek is seeking you. And so to call it in, but to also take a step towards it at the same time, because it's calling you in.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen on the dating apps, bro. It's going to happen in real life.
I don't know nothing about that.
That's for sure.
Like
I'm
That's good.
Yeah, that's a whole other discussion. Bro, I wanted to take it and start off because we're speaking a lot about the work, about Sacred Sons in particular, and me especially as well. Like that was my first contact with men's work, and so I've once tasted the waters and being thirsty ever since. But
so Convergence 8 in Los Angeles was your very first experience being around a group of men, being vulnerable, being honest.
I mean, this is like a boomerang because I threw it out many years ago when I started acting, and I did a lot of acting work, and within that and a lot of those workshops and acting classes, I now in hindsight spot a lot of similarities to this work. It's a lot of embodiment, it's a lot about raw expression, it's a lot about honoring your feelings within a character, but at the end of the day, those are your things, like they're coming from within you, all right? Yeah. And you got to have your feet on the ground, and you got to be there, you got to be present. Also, when you're playing with someone, you got to be present with them. And so, like sacred mirroring and all of that kind of stuff, that's like Meisner acting stuff, like very similar. Yes. And so, so having said that, and we're gonna definitely go to Sacred Sons and all that, I wanna talk a little bit about your context and what people, places, and circumstances contributed to the man that you are today.
All of them. All of the people. All of the places. Which ones are significant in this moment? Yeah, you asked me about my voice. When we first got on here, and I would say that finding my voice is a massive part of who I am. And so let me think about who were some of the people. Well, I imagine my voice comes from the ancestors, right? Like at some way, there's some aspect of my DNA that someone had before. I imagine them to be like on the front lines of a battle, like a William Wallace type, because I have that energy like fully in me. I feel that all the time. And when I was in grade school, even in grade school, I remember a teacher told me once, like, you have a great radio voice. And I was like a kid. You know what I mean? And I also like, I grew up, I listened to Rage Against the Machine and Pantera, and like, I love screaming. I don't know where it came from, but I love it. And so that one teacher saying that one thing to me, and now I host a podcast and I use my voice for that. I also was in a metal band for 10 years, screaming on stages. That band was called 12 Tribes. The men in that band and all of the people who had come through that band, they're all a massive part of my journey in what it means to be human and how to relate. You know, I spent years on the road touring in a band in like a Dodge 15 passenger van with four other men closely. You know, so those experiences informed me so much about life. So,
how so?
Yeah, being in close proximity like that, and also being on mission, like having something to accomplish, it's somewhat like a family. I mean, it is for lack of a better term, a family. It's like every day we're going to get to the next city. We have to do that together, despite what's coming up between us. And then that night we're going to get on that stage and sync up and harmonize our energy. Thinking about it from where I'm at now, I'm like, oh, that's such a prayer, like to do that and to harmonize no matter what's happening relationally with us. Like doing that is kind of a devotional practice when I think about it now. But just like being brothers, being able to share about girls during that time in my life, my early 20s, being able to share about like, you know, I grew up straight edge, which is like drug and alcohol free. But being able to share about things that were not at that time being shared otherwise. You know, what's a good way to say that? I mean, it's a form of intimacy, you know, having a band of brothers as a young man is priceless. I'll say that.
Yeah, same for me. I'm a drummer, I'm a guitarist, I'm a singer, so
you know.
Yeah, no. What facilitated that environment for you to be able to share like that between you and your band brothers?
Proximity, the lack of borders, the lack of boundaries. Plus we were like, you know, let's see. What facilitated it? Yeah. When I'm telling you right now in this moment, what facilitated was that van and hours on the road together where we were like, you know, when you think about these like Chevy Chase family road trip movies and like the dad's always screaming and the kids are going wild, like, dude, touring in a band is like that. You know, there's you're on the road for hours. One of us has to drive. Typically that would have been me or my guitar player, Andy. And like, you know, it's utter chaos otherwise. And so I'm not saying we were sitting in the van, like deeply talking about our feelings or anything like that. Mostly we were making fun of each other and trying to beat each other in video games. You know, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that the experience and joy and heartache and, you know, also exhaustion that came along with that is a priceless life experience. I still think to this day, like touring musicians, I feel like it's one of the coolest life experiences you can have.
Fully agree. How would you say that time informed the rest of your life?
Massively. I traveled the world. Our band was bigger in Europe, as they say. So, you know, we're playing metal and hardcore music. So we toured in the UK, Germany. You're in Berlin. I can't remember the name of the venue in Berlin, but we played in Cologne, Germany, Munich, Frankfurt. I've toured extensively, and travel in and of itself is so expansive in terms of knowing who you are. You know, being so far away from home, however, yet being like an attraction because people are coming to see us play. And so it'd be in these different cities and towns, and instead of like going out and experiencing the culture is coming to these shows, and the culture is coming to us. And it's a beautiful exchange of culture in a way. Like, here's our music that we crafted in the basements of Dayton, Ohio, all the way over in Berlin, Germany, right? On display. And then in exchange, we get to feel the culture of those who come into that space, into the shows. It's a really beautiful exchange in that way. And yeah, travel is just massively expansive. It allowed me to, you know, I don't have very many limiting beliefs. I'm one who is out here preaching that anything is possible. And it's largely because of things I was doing when I'm like 22 years old. And I'm on a stage. I'm playing on the London Astoria stage where the Beatles played or Jimi Hendrix played, and we're opening for Killswitch Engage, one of my favorite bands. I'm like, I'm living my dream life. And I fully can realize it. That was my 21, 22-year-old dream life. And so if that's possible, what else is possible? And just to keep it real, we were like a, you know, we didn't sell 1 million records. We're an underground band.
Right. But the thing though, about this genre and the people that follow it, I feel like there is a profound sense of community.
Big time.
Behind it. Like a profound sense of belonging, some sort of mission, if you want to say so as well, and purpose. And I feel like it requires some sort of involvement that goes beyond listening to the records. It's like showing up. It's like like this work. It's like you got to be there. You got to show up. You got to go to the concerts. You got to wear the thing. You got to, you know, and.
But Maxi, listen to exactly what you're saying. Which came first? Largely, the Sacred Sons model is rooted in the DIY punk rock model that I lived, right? The merch that you're describing, the fact that you're in Germany rocking the Sacred Sons hoodie, which is dope, by the way, you know, that comes from that aspect of my life. You know, it was actually born from that. The way that Sacred Sons is traveling the world, as I'm telling you about a younger version of myself traveling the world and being the attraction and having the culture of that place come into the gathering, it's exactly what we are doing as Sacred Sons. And so this model is rooted in, and you said something has to be done, there's a mission. Back then, you know, there was that sense, there was a mission. I'm mentioning there's movements like the straight edge movement, the vegan movement. There's also that camaraderie around the movement of angst and energy. And that's the show up part. Come to the show, get in the mosh pit, move the energy, sing along, use your voice, chant along, stage dive, you know, go through the fullness of your human expression, and no one's going to fucking judge you. That comes from that. That comes from that movement. And so, yeah, I am applying that to this thing that's called men's work, but you know that you might know this, and for those of you listening, this is so much more than men's work. I hope that this is land immersion, like nature immersion. This is soul reconnection. This is about finding purpose. This is about bringing it back to our families, to the women and children, right? So there's a greater mission here yet. You know, the mission itself is not men's work.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's all related, man. It's all related. And I think for each of us, if we have the ability to look through the transparency of the chapters of our lives, you will find these golden threads of things that are true to your nature, just like how I was starting about the voice. Find that thing that's true to your nature and go towards it. When those early teachers, when those young friends, when those colleagues or whoever, when they point out those pieces of you that they really just like, simple as that. Follow that thread and see, and that's something to follow. And it's very simple, but you'll find when you are in alignment with your purpose, there are things from your past experiences that are effortlessly resourceful and useful.
Yep. Yep.
Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. It's funny because me sitting here is following that voice to a large degree and saying no to so many things that from a worldly perspective would have made, and at first glance would have made so much more sense coming from the mind.
Like cents or like dollars and cents?
Sense in terms of logic, you made this step, so why do you sidestep? Why do you go this way now? So
Right.
that in that way, but also in terms of dollars and money, yeah, for sure.
That's usually when people say things like, "Oh, it would have made more sense if I did this." If you go to the root of it, they're probably talking in some way about exchange of finances, or it would have brought me greater abundance in some way. However, when we follow it for that reason as the intention, it's never the truth.
There you go, bro. Absolutely, absolutely. And it's funny because when I'm looking at the zigzag of my curriculum that I went through right up until today, makes absolutely fucking perfect sense. Like, It's all over the place, but every single little nugget contributed to this not finished cookie yet. I'm still baking, but it's, I'm in the kitchen.
It has to.
Yeah.
It has to. You know why? When you asked me that question, like, what experiences made you into the person you are? I'm like, all of it. And it has to be that way. I'm going to give you two examples from, I'm going to give you two examples from popular culture. Joe Rogan, Donald Trump. This is like, we're living in a clown world, right? Joe Rogan is a martial artist early in his life, becomes a stand-up comedian. Martial arts and stand-up comedy don't equal money back then, for sure, right? This thing called the UFC and cage fighting comes about. He ends up commentating for it. Again, there's no money there at all. The UFC ends up being sold for $4 billion. He ends up having the number one podcast, not only comedic podcast, but the number one podcast in the world, gets his rights bought for $100 million. He was not someone who was following his money. He was following his passion. So like, not that everybody's going to be that, and not that the result is always going to be financial, but the result might be something like family, security, significance, safety, abundance. Donald Trump, unlikely character, you got to admit, but everything that he's ever experienced brings him to this present moment, and only he can be him because of it. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Unapologetically himself.
Yes. So no matter where you are in your journey, for those who are listening, no matter how silly it looks to those around you, not only can they never understand, you cannot truly understand what Spirit has in store for you. All you can do is continue to pull on those threads of grace, of beauty, of like, that fills me up. I feel good from this. Even if it's gardening, even if it's, no matter what it is, like, keep going to the things, not from a pleasurable way that feel good, but from a human and spiritual experience that feeds you, that feeds the soul.
Are you familiar with Michael Singer by any chance?
No.
The Untethered Soul or Surrender Experiment?
Yes.
Yeah, so surrender is like his thing, his teaching. And during my time in the US, I visited him at the Temple of the Universe, and he speaks about surrender all the time. And I bring it up because people associated his vita and his curriculum and life of surrender, which led him to lead a 1,300 people company, going on the stock exchange and becoming this best-selling author, featured on Oprah and whatnot. Like, he's been all over the place, best friends with Tony Robbins. Like, he's right up there. But he's like this hippie dude living in the woods in Alachua, Florida. That's him. So he didn't want to have all that. And what he says about surrender is, like, people believe, or like there's a belief around that, like, okay, I surrender, but I surrender into material abundance, like in financial wealth, that's where I'm going to be ending up once I surrender. Where he's like, yeah, people get too tied up. That was my journey, for example. But there is so much, like, there's so much, a layer that's so much deeper than that, where it's about evolution. Like, can you just open yourself up enough, surrender, so the universe works through in this incarnation, so that you become the vessel for whatever needs to come through. And if that is financial abundance, good for you. But it doesn't have to be mansions and big, all that.
Well,
it can be, like you say, like family, deep purpose in your work, showing up for your community.
Friendship, community, celebration, something to look forward to. This is how to live a life of prosperity. And I'll tell you my philosophy, which is just like a little sprinkle on top of the untethered soul, which is you are going to get exactly what you pray for. No doubt. And I guarantee you, those people who have those mansions, they were fucking visualizing and praying for a mansion. I guarantee it. I guarantee you. They had a vision of it. Somehow, some way. People who have boats, right? They think about boating. They think about being out in the water because that fills their soul up. Make no mistake. They're not just like, oh, I just got this yacht. And I didn't even like prepare for it. Conor McGregor was talking about yachts when the dude was like, in welfare. You know what I mean? And right. So like, if the material, accumulation is what you want to put your prayers towards, then do it. I put my prayers towards community. I really did. And I would also encourage us all to be mindful about what we're praying for. You know what I mean? And so there's
Absolutely.
There's an opportunity. And if anybody needs further clarity around this particular topic about finances, I would recommend reading Think and Grow Rich. It's very practical. It's very current, by Napoleon Hill. And all of the information you need is literally in that one book. And it truly is about the visualization and the pursuit of things that that you're naturally attracted to. But this is what I wanted to say. In my prayers for community, I didn't include a yacht. I'm like, has nothing to do with what I'm trying to do. But you know what I did pray for? Land, water, food, resources, songs, prayers, culture, elders. And that's who's showing up. And when you come to Sacred Sons, you feel that.
Yeah.
Because that's what we have been praying for. So the other invitation right here, right now, for those out there, if you're listening to Maxie or if you're listening to me, if you forgot how to pray, there's a place where you can come. And you're not going to get judged. You're not going to be shamed. And you have an opportunity to die and be reborn. To go through some type of a transformation that you are, in fact, praying for. And to find out.
And you bring all of you.
Yeah, all of you is required. All of you is welcome, but it's also required. You know what I mean? I love the culture of all of you is welcome. In men's work, there can often be this boot camp type of energy. We're going to break you down and build you back up. We're going to push you physically to your edges in a way that is promoting more dominance. We do not do that at Sacred Sons. We do push ourselves to physical edges. We do get in there and put the gloves on and fight. Did you get to step into ritual combat?
Sure, bro.
I'd love to hear your experience. But we're pushing the edges in healthy ways. Not from this hierarchical place, but no, man, when you're pushed physically, you're not going to be like some chump getting screamed at. You're going to be getting cheered on by a group of brothers, and you're going to be in the center. You're in the center of a circle in this instance. And I think that's an important distinction to make about our work and the energy and the culture of what we're creating. And so when you first come in, it's not this hazing, is it?
No.
It's like thank you so much for choosing to do this work for yourself, for your loved ones, for your family, and ultimately for this world, because that is the work that we are doing here.
That's it. Let's go to Sacred Sons in a second. I have one more question regarding your journey, because we're speaking about purpose.
I can't separate it.
I know, bro.
I'm always talking about Sacred Sons.
I know. But in the preparation for this, I listened to so many podcasts with you, and I'm just like, I'm curious about this guy behind it.
Oh, cool. Ask me anything, man.
So I was wondering how, if at all, did your purpose evolve, change, grow, mature?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. We're always on our purpose. Whether we acknowledge it or not, we're always on purpose. So, that being said, I've had so many chapters that look absolutely different and unique. But when I get the opportunity, like when I'm at a peak moment, you know, I have peaks and valleys, just like every single one of us does. But when I'm at a peak moment, I have the perspective to be able to look back and see how each of the things, each of those chapters applies to my purpose. And so, yeah, I think it's not only for me, but for the men out there listening, I would do this as a meditative exercise, whether you're in a peak or a valley moment of your life. To take stock, to go back and look for the meaning. You know, look for the meaning of those pieces that maybe once felt inconceivably traumatic, heartbreaking. Why me? How could this have happened? And like go back and take stock of that. And can you squeeze out any meaning? Can you squeeze out something that's just maybe from the perspective of where you are now, that you're able to like weave into the tapestry of your life in a good way? The more we do that with our lives, the more we can be present and move forward versus having to sit with some of the emotions that those stories have meant to us in the past.
What meaning did you extract from the chapter between your band and Sacred Sons? There was one more chapter, right?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for asking that. Let me see how I want to think about this. Because there was something I said earlier that reminded me. Yeah, so when my band ended, when the band ended, Andy got his girlfriend pregnant, his now wife, now has 2 kids. He's now a chef. He came to me one day and was like, I got to tell you something. Megan's pregnant. I'm not going to be able to tour anymore. I got to figure out my life. You know what I mean? This is how bands end. when you're not making millions of dollars. But just to tie it back to what I'm saying, in those days, you know what I was praying for? I was praying to tour with my friends and my favorite bands and to travel. I wasn't praying to be on MTV, although we did have a video on MTV too. But what I mean is I wasn't praying for a mansion and a yacht. I just wasn't. It was not truly the thing that I desired. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Anyways, I moved to San Diego, California. I also have a degree as a mechanical engineer. And so for 15 years or so, I've had a career as a product designer, as a project manager. And I've done some really incredible stuff. I worked largely in the water quality and water quantity kind of space. So in environmental engineering. And what do I take away from that? What is the meaning? Yeah, I think I see myself as a bit of a Renaissance man, you know, and I think it's good for a man to delve into all of the philosophies, sciences, get your hands dirty, athletics. You know, I think it's important for us to dedicate ourselves in ways that challenge ourselves. You know, like I was not some great math student in school. The way I got into engineering is very simple. I went to my advisor when I was in high school. I actually wanted to go to school for art. And I was like, I need to make 40 grand out of college because this is my mindset back then. Can I do that with this art degree, or what do I need to do that? And he was like, if you want to make money, you should go into engineering. And I just fucking did it. And it worked out great because I took all that art and that passion, I applied it to mechanical engineering. What I learned was all those guys who are great at math are actually not great at design. And so I got to be a little bit of a bridge to those worlds. I got through the calculus, I got through the statics and dynamics, and I got through the college, and I had a very beautiful career. Like I actually love that work. I love design. I love to create things in this world. And specifically, the things I was creating were helping scientists monitor global climate change through. Let me say this again. The things I was designing were instruments to help scientists monitor the effects of climate change. So I have a patent on an instrument called a CTD. I also wanted to have a patent. I don't know if there's any inventors out there. I know there are. Anybody out there like, I want to have a patent. You're praying for that. Even if it's subtle, even if it's from you when you were a kid playing with Legos. Like, go do that. So I have a patent on an instrument called the Castaway CTD. Anyone can look it up. But it measures conductivity, temperature, depth, and salinity. They drill cores into the ice in Antarctica and in the Arctic. They drop this instrument in. They measure how much salt water and fresh water are mixing. And from that, they can derive like how quickly the ice caps are melting. It sounds insane to say all that right now in this moment. It sounds so insane. How could this dude who was screaming, and this is what I'm saying, no matter how weird it looks, whatever your situation is, like metal band, engineer, designer, men's worker, ? Sacred Sons, global brand, movement of brotherhood. It's not that it has to make sense. It just is. You know what I'm saying? So what did I glean from that? What I gleaned from that is I'm more capable than I previously gave myself credit for. I was tasked to build some really difficult, not only design products that would go underwater to like 6,000 meters deep, but and not leak and things like that as a mechanical engineer, but also to build pressure chambers and tow tanks and things that tested these instruments as well. I had some great mentorship there. I was working with some really brilliant people, and I learned a lot. And so that's what I would say. I also learned there was another aspect of my capacity that was unlocked. Like, oh shit, like really, if I give my attention to something, if I devote myself to anything, it's going to work. I will find a way for it to work. And prior to like my engineering career, I didn't believe that about myself. But now it's like, it's not a belief. It's known.
Yeah, it's a manifestation that came into this
Thank
reality.
you for asking me that. Thank you for asking me that question.
Yeah, I wanted to know. And your words ring in my mind just like they were spoken a second ago from Conversions when you told us, like, the ether, the universe, it's listening. So be impeccable with your word, brothers. Like, be aware of what you're speaking into existence, because if you don't follow up, you get a kicked in the ass. And turn that around, you speak it out and you act upon it and you make it happen. So there is power in that, and your story just beautifully illustrates that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, I think what's important in terms of that is, yes, be impeccable with your word, as best you can. Do your best always. But that's more of when we are gathered in a group like that, whenever there's three or more, this is also a universal law, but whenever there's three or more of us and we speak something into existence, it's really important that, yeah, just, you said it. You said it. That we follow it up with action. And I don't know what's behind it. Is it our ancestors? Is it the universe itself? Is it just energy that knocks us on our ass? But, when we don't do that thing, that's what gets us into the misaligned space. And so I would say, don't make whatever it is that you're asking for something that you're not well prepared to go and get. That's a mistake that people make. They want to take off the big chunk. They want to go from 0 to 100, from like day 1 to 10,000 hours. And you haven't even fucking devoted yourself to it. Why would you play with the universe like that? It's not advisable.
Yeah, bro.
And so what is advisable is like, what's a baby step? What's a small step in that direction? What is, if I'm really seeking a partnership or, desiring family, cool. What is like a small piece that I could start to embody right here, right now, knowing that awaits me?
Yeah, a quote that comes to mind is here. Everybody wants to save the world. Nobody wants to do the dishes. So, yeah. There's power.
I think the world doesn't need saving, truly. Like we each need to do our work individually, then collectively, and that's what needs attention. Not even saving. It needs attention.
So I feel like this is like the perfect segue into now diving straight into Sacred Sons. So how is Sacred Sons helping men in doing that?
Just by talking about it and listening and being being together. That's how we're doing it. I would like to just continue the evolutionary story here, because while I was an engineer, and while I was, in that chapter, I was also like a seeker. And so I would sit in plant medicine ceremonies on weekends. This would be back in like 2011, 12, 13. And go on trips to Peru. I also continued the traveling and the expansiveness into that chapter, right? And so the exploration for me at some point came from being like, let me go see how many places I can see, to like, let's deeply go inside. And I was called to things like sweat lodge, ayahuasca ceremony, and men's work. And these are just the tools that I found accelerated me from where I was previously into where I was headed. And in one of those ceremonies, I heard the call to gather the men, that the men needed this, and that I was going to be a part of bringing it through. And I was very reluctant to that thought. And, immediately, that was also one. This is very common for guys that I run into, and especially spiritual guys, who are on the path. I was very comfortable sitting in ceremonies with women and, being a little bit in that feminine space. You guys know it if you're listening. I had that too. But I was still missing something, and that something is being met. And the masculine energy can really truly only be met with that masculine energy, I find. And so that was the initial call to this. And fortunately, I had some good brothers who were just as fearless and weird as I was, and willing to unite and to bring this forth, and to call it in, to name it Sacred Sons, to have the audacity to do it, but also to be humble enough to know that that's what's needed. The acknowledgement that we are all sons of the Most High God. We are all sons of this great Mother Earth. We are all sons and daughters of our mothers, and that all life is sacred.
Psst, hey, this is just going to be a very brief reminder. If you enjoyed this episode thus far, you can do me an enormous favor and give me 15 seconds of your valuable time. Go to your podcast app right now And if you enjoyed it, give Going Out Looking In a 5-star rating. And while you're at it, hit that follow button and that bell icon to be notified whenever a new episode is being uploaded. Thank you so much for your support, and let's go straight into the episode. Can you elaborate? Now you tickled that little bone within me, like that wanted to know a little bit more of the details. Like, how did that transition happening? Like, I'm imagine you sitting at a desk designing those instruments.
Oh yeah.
And then going on those weekends, journeying, doing these, taking the medicine and sitting with that. You get that impulse. What then? You're like, hey guys, this men's work thing.
That's the beauty of it. I wasn't even necessarily trying to make something happen. I was doing what fed my soul by on the weekend, I'm going to go do a men's weekend out in Joshua Tree. My engineering buddies thought it was fucking hilarious because of it. You know what I mean? It's funny how it happens, but the more we go towards that thing that fulfills us, all of a sudden it's seemingly popular. But you have to understand, Maxie, this men's work is not some popular thing out there in the mainstream culture at large. And so we were crafting it, cultivating it in the deserts. What happened was there was a point, I would say around Convergence 3. We are now this year we will have Convergence 9. And around that time, it was like building so much momentum that it was clear that my energy was needed more there. Can you imagine that?
Got it. Yeah.
It's like, this is how I make money and pay my bills, but this thing is growing and building with momentum, and it needs more of my attention. And so I'm going to have faith that I'm going to follow where my attention's needed, like I've been talking about this conversation. I'm going to do it. And I don't know how it's going to happen. Truly. But I trust that it is. And the way that I can trust that it is because all of those chapters that I've experienced before have always revealed to me that I will be fully supported and that things will not work itself out, but if I'm devoted to it, I will be met. Right? So here is my analogy. In 2020, my analogy was, when Sacred Sons can meet this level, I will be able to go full time into Sacred Sons. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Like, this is my standard of living. This is how much Sacred Sons actually can give me. That was the reality in 2020, 4 short years ago. And so how can Sacred Sons meet my standard of living? That was called the unknown, right? There's a business plan. There's organization. I'm largely involved in our operations at Sacred Sons, but it's still unknown. And what happened? We were on our flight to Maui, Hawaii, March 13th of 2020. We landed on Maui, Hawaii, and COVID happened. Mm-hmm. And we were going to have an EMX and a training out on Maui. We immediately had to cancel it because, the world's shutting down now. All of a sudden, we're all together on Maui at this retreat center. Shout out to Devin Fredrickson. We were at Devin's house up on Makawa, where we were going to have this retreat. And suddenly, everything is stopped. And so that's, for me, this was kind of like that moment, that turning of the page of the chapter, right? And we're like, okay, 2 weeks go by, we're there a month, we're somehow the people who own this place are like, just stay as long as you need to. We're in Mexico, don't worry about it. We're sitting there and there's nothing happening because everything's shut down, and we just get to work. We start our online membership, and we start reaching out to our brothers, and we start hosting our Maui events. Meanwhile, I'm checking in, doing Zoom calls back in San Diego, and By July comes around, and they're doing rounds of layoffs, and so I put my name in the hat, and I'm like, hey, I'm ready. I'm ready to like full trust. I'm ready to go full trust now. And so I was blessed with a severance and the ability to continue to have that standard of living because of this severance package that I received, which I was very grateful for, to give my energy to Sacred Sons. And it turns out that was the exact amount of time I needed to do this. And so how did all that happen? Like, COVID certainly was not orchestrated for simply or solely the benefit of Adam Jackson. There's no way that's true. But I watched during that time who was able to find the blessing, the opportunity in the moment, and who was just simply stuck at home and miserable and filled with conspiracy and filled with vitriol. Who was actually living from a place of love through darkness, and who was stuck in the muck and the mire of the time. And so my invitation is for anyone who feels himself in that stuck way to choose differently. And you know, I feel super blessed about how it all transpired. It's such a blessing, and by now, there's so much more I could share about that tiny experience. But you know, our brothers Jason, Kale, Neil, Brick, Angelo, Alessandro, all are supported by Sacred Sons now. When I was doing this, how's it going to meet me? It's not me. It's like it's meeting all of those men I just named in 4 short years. How is that possible? Like, I'm not taking credit for that. I give it up to the prayers every time.
Yeah, but you make it mean something. That's it. You know, it's not what happens to us; it's what we make it mean. And so, yeah, you all made COVID mean something, and out of it.
Well, we were also in community around it. That was also like such a helpful situation to be in. And there was another timeline, like, so Maxie, there's another timeline where I freak out. I got to get back to San Diego. We got to go back to work. I don't know what's going on at my house. I could have written 1,000 storylines out of that one opportunity. And the one I chose was to follow the passion. That's it.
How do you cultivate trust in your life?
By having experiences that reinforce trust, by trusting myself, by being in integrity with my word. Like, yeah, it's an inside out thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, yeah.
If you're relate. Okay. So let me say more, because I think that's important. Honesty, number one. Got to start being honest with self and others. This promotes trust. Like, honesty is the foundation of our work. Honesty is the foundation of our ability to thrive. And so from there, then we can start getting into integrity, start being impeccable, start showing up when we say we're going to. If we're not going to, we need to change the agreement. We do that too. And it's not about perfection. It's about making it a practice in our life, right? It's not about being perfect, clearly. It's just about making it a practice. You know, when people trust you to do something and then you do it, you're not just like, oh, I did a thing and you're exhausted from the doing. You are filled up in the reciprocity of that exchange, and therefore, like, revitalized. More of those experiences are necessary to truly live with a full cup. You know what I mean? And if you're not, be honest about it. And when you're not, be honest about it. And then the cup will just fill up that much quicker through that. And then the other thing to trust is that the story is not over. even though I'm talking about this like this happened, like this is still happening, Maxie. You know what I mean? I'm not finished. I haven't arrived. I didn't win. We're still here. We're still in it. And so to have a mindset of never having arrived is very helpful. That's why you see people like The Rock. You're like, does he really need to do another movie? Right? Now he's a fucking owner of the WWE. I don't know if you care about this or in TKO. And TKO, it just happened yesterday.
Oh wow, didn't know that.
The Rock could have stopped at his high school football injury, college football injury, right?
Right.
He could have stopped at being a WWE champion, pro wrestler. He could have stopped at being fucking on Oprah and like a movie star. But he's still in his passion. And so the blessings and the prayers, they just become amplified. And not that we should idolize anyone. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying look at the example of what's happening. Also true, look at the examples of other figures who are like maybe have a slightly different message and maybe are praying for and evoking other energies, like an Andrew Tate type of character. And he just spent X amount of months in a Romanian jail. Like, just all you have to do is watch the examples. And I'm really not saying that people are perfect or they're pure, or that they're not doing harm in whatever ways they might be. I'm just saying, like, thoughts, words, actions.
Yeah.
Thoughts, words, actions in that order every time. If you get those three aligned, it's like the road lights up. The pathway lights up right in front of you. The people that you pray for in your life start coming into your life.
I feel like this is a good place where I can speak on that, because I'm coming out of a very dark place, basically. I'm still in it, partially. So Sacred Sons was a little bit like the convergence and that whole trip that came along with that, and interviews and meeting leaders and all of that. Being in that environment lifted me up, certainly, and brought me onto a certain plane. But then I came home. I had to come home at some day, and life was waiting. And like what I'm getting at a little bit is...
let's be specific. What happened? What was waiting in life?
For me to make a decision was the next move for me in my life in general, after having sold everything. So no apartment, no place to live, no job. That's because I didn't want to continue doing what I was doing at the time, or what I'm doing currently, which is mainly working online and looking into this device 10 hours a day. And in the field of marketing, which is not something that is fulfilling me intrinsically. And also grieving a relationship and sort of healing that, and finding my place without a partner. Like, who am I as a man? First of all, like, boy down, man up. Like, I didn't meet any of my masculine parts. I didn't address them. I didn't even, never looked at them, honestly. Yeah. And so I went on a trip. I came back, but the trip didn't fix it. I had to still make those decisions. I had to still go through it, and I had to still face the pain.
So the fixing. Right. We're not going to.
There's a lot of fixing going on.
There's a lot of fixing. This is and we want to come out of that and come more into the beingness of it. And so you are at a decision point in your life, and no one else is going to decide, right, for you. I don't care how many seminars you go to. You can even go talk to Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins isn't going to decide for you.
Nope.
So the more that you have an expectation of being fixed, actually does the opposite. And so that decision point though, so you get the energy, you get your cup filled up, you're ready, and then what?
Exactly.
You have a decision in front of you. You're stripped naked and bare and raw and heartbroken. So what do you want?
Keep evolving, basically. Keep growing. And let me
ask you again.
Like I was going.
What do you want, Maxie? What do you want? What do you want?
I want to be me.
You already are you. What do you want? You can't not be you.
Feel like a large part of myself was hidden that is now able to come into existence, basically.
And is it enough for it to exist, or do you need to be seen in it? Do you want to be seen in the fullness of yourself? Is that important to you?
Yeah, it is. It's part of my soul imprint. And I was ashamed that was the case, and I was blaming myself for that.
You're already an actor. You're already wanting to be seen and to be felt in your identity or the character that you play. That's a part of who you are, I would imagine.
That's true. And why I brought that whole thing up was to make the point of that I could tell that story and leave out certain areas.
Yeah.
And where I'm getting at is that I'm coming out of a time where all of the tools were lined up. You know, you talk about like having the cookbook, but not cooking the fucking meal.
Yes.
So
that was a powerful moment from Philip Folsom at that Pillar Talk.
Exactly. So, like, my kitchen is set, man. Like, it's all ready. But then, and I feel like my soul feels like, yeah, I'm finally ready. I'm coming out of it. But I needed to go through a period where there was no alchemy or there was just darkness and pain. And through that time, the connections I built at Convergence carried me through it. They did. My accountability partners, Hawthorne Clan, all of the brothers. I didn't want fixing. I was just expressing myself. I was just like, guys, this is where I'm at. I don't want to have phone calls. I don't want to have, hey, try this. I don't want that. I just want to have this container for me to say that it's fucking shit right now.
Exactly.
And that I don't know where I'm going. Absolutely no way. Like I don't know. I don't know. I'm moving in back with my parents. I sold all my stuff. I don't know. And I'm telling you, like this, there was so much weight lifted off me by just having the ability to do that. And
yes.
You asked me earlier what happened when I was stepping into ritual combat. Like that was in a small thing. That is what happened. I brought that rage and all of my I'm like this. Like I fought my whole life in some way, karate and kickboxing and Thai boxing. And I'm just like I'm gonna bring this, and I was mad, man. I was punched in the face, like really. So I was taking it all in, and actually I got a little bit more into the submissive energy, and I was just like, yeah, let me take it in. Like I wanna feel how that actually is, because hitting the bag is nice, but now I have a man who is in a respectful way meeting me where I want to be met. So let's take it in, and I enjoyed that. And afterwards, I had this whole process with my dad and speaking out of setting boundaries and my need for
Powerful.
to do that, and my whole ancestry, we don't want to get into like the whole Germany trauma situation. We have a massive issue right now with right-wing, rise and all of that. So that's within my ancestry, and it comes from going along and not saying no, and that's a large part of my personal story. And so that came to the surface after ritual combat, and I was ever since basically that was working. And of course there was like this thing like I want to use that and I can fix it straight away, but I wasn't. But now through whole other sort of different set of circumstances, when I'm looking at the relationship with my father, for example, the seeds were planted at convergence, and now the sapling is growing into something through a whole different situation, family emergencies and all these kind of things, hospitals, grief, all of that. But that brought us together in a way that I could never have seen coming.
Well, that was what you, so in the sense that I'm speaking, that's actually what you were praying for from convergence, was the capacity to meet that experience and for it to have a positive impact on your relationship with your father. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That's an amazing experience. If you don't mind, I want to come back to this I don't know part. Because, when you're with the brothers and you're just being seen in that mess and that vulnerability, no doubt it's like such a needed thing for men to be able to break it down, to do that. But we don't want to stay in I don't know. We don't want to pray for I don't know, because when we do that, I don't know becomes suffering. I don't know becomes addiction. I don't know becomes depression. And I don't know becomes I'm no longer here. That's what this world is plagued with. What we are doing as Sacred Sons is we are connecting and reconnecting men to their hearts, leading men to their purpose. Right. And so that's going to be a long journey. It's not going to be solved in a weekend, but we make massive strides, as you know, like on our events. So what do you want, Maxie? It could be small, it doesn't have to be the whole vision. It doesn't have to be that. It can be small.
I actually have figured it out partially, and I need to say that that I don't know. For me in my journey, it was essential. And I felt like my soul needed to be on the knees. I needed to be down. Like there was no way around it.
I don't want to stay
there. And like certainly, like I looked around and there were brothers to hold me in that, which was. So I don't know what would have happened if that wasn't the case. But what do I want? I want to work with my fucking hands.
Okay.
I want to build something. I want to work with people. I want to look them in the eye and have an energy exchange. I'm serving you and you serving me. All right? So basically, I was like, so either I go back to construction, what I did when I was 15, because I was building something with my hands. So I pursued that a little bit and basically looked around. Nothing clicked. And then I said, what about hospitality? I always did hospitality. All right, let's just put it out. And dude, man, through the most miraculous fucking strings and whatnot, I wrote down on the porch of Vince, my toes got shaven at Bakersfield. I wrote down, I want a place at a lake with the view of the mountains. I want a terrace where I can go outside, do my embodiment practices, and then I want to go to work and serve people with my hands. So guess what? I'm moving to Bavaria, to a lake, to an apartment where I can go outside. And I'm working within hospitality to serve people with vegan and vegetarian conscious food with my hands.
Wow.
And I'm doing the podcast, and they're open for it, and they allow me to host events at the space, bring men's work there, and all of that. So I'm like...
Bavaria?
Yeah, in Bavaria. Just 45 minutes out of Munich. So...
Okay.
Boom. You know, that's what I want.
It sounds like that's what's happening.
Yeah, it's happening. But
Beautiful.
It needed the death of that old thing and that holding on and that fixing and all of that, because that was very much alive. Very much alive. And
I like that you said like when you were in the I don't know, you had the support of those brothers. Like you had the support to be seen in it, to be felt in it. And maybe possibly just to know that a couple people cared that you were there. Like that can be so meaningful when we're in that valley.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah.
That's my takeaway from Sacred Sons, bro. Like that's my take. My takeaway is community, is people.
Exactly.
Like I travel. Like I had Convergent was the first event, and then I stayed for another 4 weeks in the US. The only places I slept were brothers from Sacred Sons.
Isn't that amazing?
It's fucking amazing.
I talk about that all the time. How like for many of us at this point, like we can travel to most places in the world, and there are brothers out there who are part of Sacred Sons, and it's not some exclusive thing. Don't get me wrong. It's like it's exceptional. It's exceptional. It's professional. The quality of the people who we are attracting is second to none. I'll put our squad up against anybody, and it's not exclusive. Like people are invited to come in and to see what we're about, to join us at events, and to have an experience similar to what you had. I mean, like I'm getting ready to travel to Costa Rica for Envision Festival, where Sacred Sons will be holding workshops and experiences every day at the festival. And now I've got a whole tribe in Costa Rica of brothers and friends and family, and our whole family's coming with us. You know, it's, again, the things that I was hoping for. You know, when I was single and childless going to festivals, there's always this thought like, oh, this would end, right? If you were to have a family, because how would you possibly do that? I have no fucking clue. But now I'm going to Envision with my entire family. and then there's community beyond the festival. And it's not just for the festival peak moments either. I mean, when you're in the depths and you have community, you got a couch to crash on if necessary. That is a blessing.
Absolutely, bro.
I love that you said that just that everywhere you go, you had Sacred Sons not to take care of you, but to meet you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, brothers, if you're coming to Bavaria, go see Maxie. He's gonna have a couch and an ashram and, you know,
I got
a
the
garden
whole
full
thing.
of veggies for you. That's amazing. I
got
love
the whole
that. I
thing.
love that you wanted the lake. That's what I'm talking about. The specificity of that.
Yeah.
That's what you wanted. I think that's very important too.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. I mean, Uncle said it, like write it down, like every single detail, the color of the kitchen, the cabinets, write it down. And I wrote it down, and it's amazing. I actually did just realize that, you know, you're sometimes in the middle of it, and then those conversations, they help me sometimes to even process like what happened. It's like, oh yeah, true. That did come to fruition. Like it actually really happened. So,
and then don't leave it at in the awe of wow, it happened. Whenever you have that wow, like that really worked. This is the moment to come from a place of deep gratitude, of like humility, humbleness. Thank you. More of this, please. From the ancestors, from the guides. I'll take more of this, please. Just gently. You know, like I just want to make, because if it's like, wow, like That was like, that was a coincidence. When we operate from a space of coincidence versus that was serendipitous, that was synergetic, that was, such a gift from God. Even the small gifts. When we operate like that and you start to see the beauty in it, then it's not such a process of recalling or of having, you start to walk in the awareness that it's happening all the time, Maxi, in every opportunity of every instance.
Yeah.
And I love that you shared that, because that's going to be very inspiring. The part about you were in the depth of it. So for all those brothers who are out there listening, I imagine a lot of Sacred Sons hopefully are listening to this. If you're in that place of, I don't know, like, look what Maxi just laid out. Listen to the way I'm sharing in my story as well. It's not over. This is not the end. Very likely, if you're in that space of, I don't know, this is just the beginning. So pick yourself up, bring out that journal, and start putting the pen to paper. And start making it happen, not waiting for it to happen.
That's it. One more anecdote with that. I purchased like an oracle card thing, like a deck.
Yeah.
And I'm pulling the same cards in 6 months, bro. Pulling the same card. It's like keep your dreams alive. And when you read into it, what it says like, you have a goal, and you can offer it to God. You can pray. You can do that, but make steps towards it. Keep your dream alive. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I understood that. I put it away. A week later, I pulled the card. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. What's needed today? Pull the card. Same thing. I'm just like, all right, here we go again. And
I love that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how the universe, just communicates. It's
really, I used to use the animal spirit deck. I really got a lot out of that one. Whether to draw a card for inspiration, or if I noticed an animal in some way came across my path, to really look into the meaning of that. Those little practices can really help us make sense of the unknown, and of those times when we're like, why is this happening? What's happening? It's like a little bit of that guidance from the luck of the draw, so to speak. Even if it's the same message knocking on your door, can be very grounding and directing. So I love all these things. These are also tools that are left for us from these people who created them and from the ancestors. And hopefully we as Sacred Sons will be leaving these other tools for men and for the young men, the youth who are in the transition from boyhood to manhood. This is where Sacred Sons ultimately is headed. And, being a part of a legacy or a lineage that is leaving behind tools to bring more ease into people's lives, to bring more support, connection, confrontation, celebration, all the things that we are about.
So good. I wanted to ask you, within Sacred Sons, and because you were speaking about there's people listening from Sacred Sons, there's a lot of women listening as well. There's a lot of women listening. Yeah. And a question that I get once I started speaking out about this and sharing things, it's like, it's absolutely amazing what you're doing. What can I do as a woman to support my partner? How can I facilitate a change? So I was like, you know what? I'm speaking to Adam. I'm going to ask him.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, language is important. If I was if I'm a woman in a relationship, I would not look at it as facilitating change in my partner. I think that's step one. Men don't want their beloveds to facilitate their change. That's actually emasculating. It's actually cutting the man's balls off. Don't do that. Send him to Sacred Sons. Invite him into seeking his own growth and maturity around other men. That's what you can do in terms of an invitation to a man meeting and reaching maturity. It's okay to want that for your partners. What's not helpful is trying to be the one to do the fixing, especially in that dynamic. I think it goes both ways. For Hannah, she has women and friends. We have a postpartum doula here right now. People who support her in ways that I am just not the one to do that. And I think that's okay for us to acknowledge. That being said, I believe what women can do, and only women can really do this, is to see their partners in their fullness, in their highest, and to encourage them to do the things that match the man that they see. So encourage their partners to do the things in their life that fills their cups up, that brings them joy and passion. I think it's maybe that sounds simple, and hopefully it is, but the encouragement of a partner towards something positive versus like a negative, like you're not doing something, you're not doing this, or you need to be doing that. I wouldn't do that. I would just encourage the things that he's already doing that are bringing light and positivity. I think that yeah. I think that the reminders, this works for me, just in my in my relationship. The reminders of like, I'm better than that, or like, remember your dreams, just like that card told you. When a woman can bring the essence of remember your dreams, remember who you are, to a man in a good way, I think that is that's right there in the crux of intimacy, and only someone who you love and a partner who you hold dear can give you that genuine encouragement. What I see in couples often doing is they're going like this: you're not doing your work. You're not doing your work. No, you're not doing your work. That thing. It's not it. It's like...
Yeah, it's like three fingers pointing at yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, all right, where's the mirror? Excuse me. Absolutely.
And I've also witnessed this. I mean, just in terms of men in relationships, therapy is a very powerful tool. But I think when men go off to be with other men and do the work willingly in that way versus talking about it, where they're really getting in their bodies, they're really feeling the emotions, they're really raw, they're really primal, because that's what it takes for us a lot of times to muster it. It's been stuffed down societally so much that it's like that grief, that pain, that experience in their life as a partner to these men, you actually may not know what the root cause of that behavior is. And it's not your job to become the psychoanalyst for each of us, for our partners, but to encourage them to have the experiences that allow them to come into contact with it, whether that's men's work, women's work, plant medicine ceremonies, pickup game of basketball on the weekends, knitting, a book club, whatever really brings joy, and that can become a routine or a practice. That's the way.
Not a question.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense for you? I come back to basics, like, and then I guess this is also interesting for the women who are listening. In the same ways that we're working with men: food, movement, touch, breath, rest. Those simple things, not exhausting finger pointing conversations, not like disheartening kind of like what is that called? Sorry, I need another cup of coffee. Not like this disheartening communication, but like the basics. Food. Feed your man. Allow your man to feed you. You know, a lot of times we get into those silly spaces. One of us is probably hungry.
Yeah.
Movement. Don't be static. If there's energy flowing through your household or through your relationship, go move the energy. Movement is the way that the universe operates. Everything is moving and spiraling. So why sit in the muck and the mire of your own thoughts? You guys got to get out there and move it. That's it. Touch. Physical touch. Not necessarily sexual touch or pleasure in that way. Physical touch. When's the last time, men, you gave your beloved a foot rub? Not because she asked you, just because you're doing it. When is the last time, women, that you scratched your man's back? Not because he asked you or because he's itchy, but just because. When you start doing those little practices that all humans need and desire, and even primates in their behavior, look how they take care of each other, the primates. They're in there fucking eating the bugs off your head and shit. Go back to that primal state of touch, often with frequency, and watch how some of the illusion of problems dissolves away, especially for a man. Like, rub that man's back while he's fucking toiling in his mind. These are the simple ways, I'm telling you. They're simple. Breath. Come back to the breath. Come back to the breathing. This works with children too. When we're in that tantrum, just start taking deep breaths. You don't have to say a fucking word. Just like you started this podcast, like, hey, could we just breathe together for a minute? I'm talking to my toddler, my 4-year-old Holland. Hey, let's take a deep breath. Come on. Let's breathe together. Let's make that a common occurrence, not a tool in your toolbox. That's just what we do. When we need to breathe, we breathe. I'm not talking about doing fucking breath work. That's something else. I'm talking about breathing. Yeah, you have to go to a class to fucking breathe? Are you insane? You telling me I gotta pay for a course to breathe? What are we doing out here, people? So if you're in your partnership, don't go to the breathwork class. Just sit and look at each other in the eyes and breathe. And then rest. Never discredit the importance of sleep. God, I'm telling you, as a father who's woken up 3 times nightly, either to help with the baby or to do this or change the diaper, or the kid wet the bed, dude, rest is so vital to show up embodied in life. And so that's it. If you see your partner is exhausted, why don't you make space for them to rest instead of fucking asking them why they're exhausted? If you see that if your partner has, if you or your partner is the one that is giving the energy, like even if it's not sleep, again, it's like, hey, let me take the kids right now. You stay home or you do what you need to do. Not because you asked, but because I want to be of service to the fullness of this unit here. It's not about me anymore. It's not about you anymore. It's about we now. And so how can I be in service to we? Food, movement, touch, breath, rest. Formula for success.
That's it. Yeah.
And then I would add an asterisk that food can be anything that we consume or that we're fed by. It can also include music. It can also include what podcasts you're listening to. It can also include the thoughts that we allow to enter our space. When you get down to it, what are you being fed by?
That's it. Yep. Yeah, it's frequencies that you are inviting into your space, really. Yeah.
And action. Men are designed to take action, so do it. It doesn't always look like what we think it's going to look like. Maxie, you saw me at that opening ceremony say that thing that really you felt in your heart. Trust me, I'm in the car, the minivan with my kids, dropping them off at school, bro. I'm doing the little pieces that really matter, that I'm really here for. It's not always about being on the stage or anything like that. You know, those moments come and go. The real ceremony is in between those fires. The real ceremony is the life that we experience day in and day out. We may be looking forward to that next gathering because that's when we're going to get our chance. But your chance is right here, right now. And you prayed for it.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a shirt that says you prayed for it. You prayed for this.
I did.
And look, we're here talking.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And like I opened up with that. Like the podcast has nothing to do with me. It's just going through me, literally. And, you know, it's just so happened that, I don't know, men's work seems to be a huge part of that. So I'm like, okay, hands off the steering wheel. Let's go. But I show up every week. I show up. I do that.
And that's also a practice. And I would, sorry, cut out there for a second. You know, I also host the Sacred Sons podcast. I get really filled up with that routine of like having a deep conversation with someone at least once a week where you're really engaged. I learn so much. I feel like it's a continued education. I feel full after a healthy, hearty conversation. This is also something you're being fed by. This is a part of the food, a part of the consumption. And it maybe it's silly, but it's not even about like making a podcast so that people listen. There's a part of it that is just about the experience that you and I are having right now. And hopefully some of the thoughts or lessons that we get to contemplate as a result of it. And I've learned so much by podcasting and talking to people and having people say yes. You know, that's another way. How do you build trust? How do you build confidence? By reaching out and asking for what you want and then having someone say yes. That's how you build confidence. That's how you build hey, if I could do this, what else is possible?
Oh man, that's so powerful because like that it's funny how I reflect back on myself in that situation, because so many instances where people said yes and still I'm doubting myself in so many other parts of my life. Whereas with the podcast, I'm locked in. Like I'm asking and I don't pull any punches. I'm here for it. So it's like really how does that work inform other parts of your life? And I feel like with the manifestation piece and, you know, writing those things down, that was like, it needed to click for me in that way that the universe could also help me in that way. So it could actually come into real life. Yeah. So.
Yeah. You know, so just about that and about the writing it down, the sigil that you're wearing that I'm not today, but it's back here. The triangle, you know, in the name Sacred Sons and everything, we had to write this down on paper first. Like what you're saying, I used to sketch that image, you know, before it's being worn and decorated on by brothers all around the world. Like there's a moment where we're in that in-between space, right? The veil is thin. The idea is right there. And the way to manifest it is by, in what we are gifted as human beings, is we are creators. So we get to bring that imagining through and make it into, manifest it, create it with our hands, write it down, make a sculpture, carve it out of wood, whatever, print it on a t-shirt, whatever that original vision was. The more we evoke it by making it physical, the more people listen to the podcast all of a sudden, the more men are showing up at weekends. Like it's all related to those original sketches that you put in your sketchbook. It really is. It really is. Like imagine your sketchbook, your notebook that's filled with notes from all your interviews or all your drawings or all your poetry or all your mathematics. Look at those as portals. You think portals are waiting for you on top of some mountain outside, out there? Their portal is right here. You are the creator of that portal. And with that intention, that's where we manifest from. It's not outside. It's like, that's another piece of awareness. It's like, we don't have to go somewhere to do it. Start today. Start right now.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. I wanted to explore a little bit what it is that you feel like, because I've been met with that during, I don't know, I'm wearing this, I'm sharing clips, and so people start asking questions. They're like, okay, what's that all about, what you're doing there? And now speaking to you and to the source, I'm like, so what are the biggest misconceptions around this work, and how can we in this conversation clarify some of them, and just also for the people listening who haven't participated in a weekend, for the men who tipped their toe into the waters of men's work or saw something, and for the women who I know they love the videos and all that, but there's some context missing and there might be some misconceptions. So I wanted to give the space to address that a little bit.
I'm probably the person to address misconceptions, but I'm not the person to create them, because I'm in it. I'm so involved in it that it's I would like to address misconceptions if they are alive. But I want to say this. Here's a misconception. This work is not going to save you. Right? No one, in fact, is coming to save you. What this work is an opportunity to belong again, to connect deeply again, to maybe in some part feel safe, feel significant, feel seen. But the work is up to you. What happens as a result of the belonging, as a result of the brotherhood, it's still up to you. There's an army of us that are rooting for you now and that are in support of that. I think that that sense of belonging is the root of what this work is all about. I think that's what I'm saying. Here's the thing. Women really know what men go through intimately. 75% of men who come into our program are sent by their women. So I don't feel misconceptions from women. I think they know exactly what men are going through, because they are oftentimes, I'm not saying they're victims, but what I'm saying is they are present for the misaligned behaviors of men. And so they know what's actually going on with men. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So women largely support this movement, not because they like videos of men crying, but because they don't like the way men are showing up in their life. They don't like the way their fathers treated them. They don't like the way their bosses treat them or have treated them. They don't like the way the medical system has oppressed their ability to bring life into this world as a result of the decisions and actions of men. There's no mistakes there. There's no misconceptions about how men are actually doing. And so what I feel from women is largely encouragement for us to keep going. Again, that encouragement from women. Remember I told you that? That's the most powerful fucking force on this planet. The encouragement of women. Please take these brothers, take these men in. Do what you need to do out there, because they don't know what needs to happen. They don't actually know. That's for us. That's for us. And if there's any question of what happens there, come find out. That's all there is to it. And so again, if there are misconceptions, I will happily address them, but I'm not going to conjure them. I'm going to tell you, men are fucking suffering. Look at the suicide rates, look at the incarceration rates, look at the school shooters, look at your social media feed, look at the behaviors that are being adorned and popularized and largely promoted. And if you want something different, there's a culture of men who are aligned to their soul's purpose in this life that are hoping and praying that more men join us. We're calling you in. And know that when you get here, brother, all of you is welcome. And if you are that man who has a misconception, even your misconception is welcome. Come find out.
Yeah. Yeah, we had some of that. Even had some of that in my men's group. And when you see first the walls are coming down and movement, the energy is moving, then I feel like we all remember the same stuff because we come from the same source. So we end up at the same place. Just like
which is how would you define that place?
Through the lens of men's work, it would be brotherhood. Through the lens of humans, to me, it's love.
Every time. Yes.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. And then it's fear or love, right? So it's and that's where misconceptions come from. That's where worry comes from.
From the fear.
It's the fear.
Yeah.
And I can relate. I can really relate. But that's why I asked you how you cultivate trust, because I know men who say even of themselves that something needs to change, but then they look at this work and they're scared because they're lacking the trust in themselves that they can do it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
I would say they're scared of what it means if they say yes to it. They're scared of what it means if they actually do the thing. They're scared of what it means if they become the person who actually follows their dreams. It's not like they're afraid of what someone else is going to say, think, or do. They're scared of the responsibility and the weight and the potential burden of what it means to fully be who you are. That's what people are afraid of. And there's a threshold to that, and we have ways of breaking through that fear and of truly being seen and accepted for who you are, wherever you are, And I think that's something that's really powerful that's happening in our community that I see is just the diversity of men who are coming in. And I'm talking about ethnically diverse, spiritually diverse, financially diverse, in all of the ways. I've just met so many people who are kind of just on their path and come into this brotherhood and add to the beauty and the magic and the color and the song that we're walking with right now. It's really incredible. And so that belief of like, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of that, like not enoughness, not this, not fit enough, not, I don't have, this, or whatever that story is. I know there's a lot of that. A big one is I don't have the time, which is hilarious to me. It's like, oh, but you have the time to just keep being the same way you are forever. Oh, got it. There's no time to take for myself to have that intentional initiation into the next chapter of my life. It's actually a ridiculous concept when we think about it in that way. It's like you and everyone around you actually deserves this. They deserve your best, yeah? So you have to actually create the time, make the time, take the time to go do this work on yourself. Because everyone around you is going to be impacted by it. Everyone around you is already being impacted by your behavior, by your situation, right? And so if you want to improve upon that, this is one really powerful way to do it.
Yeah.
And in fact, in all my seeking that I've done in my life, I had no idea I would land here, but this is what I have found to be the most powerful out of all of it. Mm-hmm. And it's because of the depth of connection, is what I've found.
Yeah.
You can do some incredible things. You can climb Mount Everest. You can run a marathon. Those are great kind of threshold things, but they're largely individual and isolating. Can be, right? Even the plant medicine journeys, what I find in those communities is that people are actually coming back because they want the connection to other humans.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that they want to blast off into the ethers. What they're really there for is the next morning when we're all sitting around in a circle and sharing about an experience that we just had that was significant. But we can do that. We can do that just on our own. We can intentionally choose to come together to share in the majesty of life, here and now, with nothing in between us, with no separation.
Yeah.
If we choose it.
But that's like the paradox. That's the paradox of like doing a podcast about it, because we're using spoken word to describe something that is so much living off the experience itself and the feeling that you're getting by doing it. So like, and that's where I end up often. It's just like I'm using words to describe something that changed my life. It's just like,
for what intention? What's the intention for doing it?
Yeah. You mean for me?
Yeah. Yeah. You want to share something that was meaningful to you.
Best I can describe it, best I can word it, is that I just knew inside of me that there was something, and I could not put a label on it, I could not put my finger on it. I just knew I haven't looked at it or touched it or felt it or met it in any way, shape or form, and that my life and everyone that would enter it would be, I don't know, it would be such a shame to not show that part of myself to myself and meet that, and then to show all of the people that this is also part of me. And that work was bringing it up in me, and I was like, oh yeah, whatever name I want to give it, it's the masculine or whatever, like it's my essence, it's my source that I neglected for so long, and I found it again. I remembered. So that's why the remembering is so powerful for me. So like we're not reinventing the wheel. It's literally like, no, we just remember what was always there.
Yeah.
And that was my intention. What is that thing? I want to find it again. And I want to remember. That was my intention. Still is.
Beautiful.
Still is, yeah. All right, let's land that sacred plane. I got a couple of questions towards the end usually, but I have one that stands out straight away. It's like, what are you proud of?
So much. My boys, first and foremost. I think that's that's a real one. And Winona, who just got here. Really proud of my children. I'm proud that we are doing something that is so radical, by inviting men to come and pray and heal and sing together, kind of, in this time of separation. I'm proud that people are saying yes to more connection when there's a really loud force that's saying, don't do that, give into the fear, be separate, other them. Like, I'm really proud of the men who do say yes to this. And I guess that makes sense, because Sacred Sons is like a child as well. So I'm proud of my children.
What are you looking forward to?
Prime Leadership, Utah. I'm coming out of the postpartum bubble here, as Winona is now. It's the 41st day. So we will have our 40 days of postpartum, and I have been at home, and so I'm looking forward to getting back out in the field. I'm looking forward to knocking the dust off and being with the brothers and doing the work, because I love it. I wouldn't be doing it if it didn't light me up. So I'm absolutely lit up to be back in that space. And I'm looking forward to what this year of 2024 has to offer all of us. It's no doubt a powerful year. And look forward to co-creating the reality, with that power, alongside of brothers like yourself, alongside of brothers like Kale and Hunter and Andrew, who are headed off to Australia, as I'm going to be in Utah. Brothers like Alessandro, who will be in Italy doing this work. I'm looking forward to that. All that is.
And what do we need more of in this world? Right.
What do we need more of? Nothing.
Nothing.
We have everything we need. And make no mistake. Yeah, that's just it. I mean, maybe a simple answer, but I really believe that.
No, it's powerful. Thank you, Brother Adam. I do really appreciate you. I appreciate the work you're doing. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, brother.
Your work changed the course of how I relate to my dad. And I wanted to tell that and say that. And
wow.
Makes me a better brother. I have a twin sister who's turning 30 with me in 7 days from now. And
wow.
Yeah. And it's actually the birthday of my dad is on the same day. So we're all going to be together, the three of us, and celebrating. And how I show up there and what I will gift them is mainly being influenced by the work that I've been doing through Sacred Sons and the leaders and the community. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Yes, you're welcome. You deserve it. Your father deserves it. Your sister, your twin sister. Happy birthday to you guys as you turn 30, entering the new decade into this new chapter, no doubt. And thank you for reaching out and for inviting me here today. Yeah. It's I am equally as inspired and proud of you, truly, for doing that deep work and for healing that relationship with your father, whatever ways that looks. And if I was to say, that's what the world needs more of, right there.
I received that. Thank you. Hey, beautiful listener, you have made it all the way through. And I want to take a moment to say thank you. And you can do me an enormous favor. It's all I'm going to ever ask from you. And that is to go to your podcast app right now. And if you enjoyed the episode, give the podcast a 5-star rating. If you want to write 1-2 words or sentences, even more powerful, even better, thank you already in advance. And also, while you're at it, just click on that follow button, on that bell notification, so that you never miss a new episode. All of that just contributes, and it helps me to increase the reach of the podcast. That means I can attract bigger guests, and that means I can deliver more powerful episodes. So it's a tiny thing. I'm only gonna ask this little favor of you ever, not more. 10-15 seconds of your time, a couple of clicks, that's it. Makes a huge difference for me as a creator. So thank you so much.